Mm,
But it is interesting. It is sometimes really challenging. COVID was really
yeah,
challenging. I mean,
yeah,
we were probably the most strict country where some other countries didn't even go into social distancing, you know. So now you're creating
mm,
work here that talks about being safe, and in the rest of the continent, you kind of pushing your product. And then there's also some ethical stuff around that, you know, especially if you
yeah,
know that all of this stuff is happening. What is the role that you should play? Do you follow what the government says, or do you follow what you think is right, and you know, and
yeah.
play into that?
Now that's very interesting. I mean, just looking at other brands, you don't have to mention them, but just looking at the brand space, how well do you think brands have reacted to COVID? Like generally, I did say
I
this
got
is going to be interesting, right?
I got this question the other day, and I've had lots of friends in the industry phoning me. They were quite upset. I feel so this is my stance as a brand, as a director, right? I don't believe that we have enough role models for people to look up to in the world currently.
Yep.
And I think that as brands, we have to play a much stronger role to make sure that we portray the right image and the right message to consumers. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I was really surprised about was the fact that a lot of, especially FMCG products, were still able to sell as normal, right? So they didn't
Mm,
lose any income, and yet they didn't do any responsible messaging or any sort of, you know, like looking out for your consumer, giving
yeah.
back. And I'm not going to mention names, but I really was surprised by that. And if I look at my
Yeah.
organization, and this makes me so proud, and you know, I'm not saying this because I work there, but like
Yeah.
we couldn't sell beer, but we made, I don't know how many millions of liters of hand sanitizer using our own
Yes. That was
alcohol, and
brilliant.
gave it to the police, gave
Mm,
it to emergency services, you know, sent it out into more rural areas. We used the plastic from our crates and made face shields that we gave to people
mm,
that were working on the front line. You know, not we didn't sell them, we gave that away, even when we weren't
wow.
able to sell our own product. You know, those are just
Mm,
two examples. We took our marketing budget, we cut it, and we gave to the Solidarity Fund.
mm,
You know, and then so I was just really surprised that we did a lot of stuff like that without being asked to do that, because it was the right
yeah.
thing to do,
Yeah.
without selling any product. And then you had lots of companies and brands carrying on like normal, you know, from a selling
Wow.
perspective, but I didn't feel like they played the part the way that they were supposed to. You know, you
Mm.
can't talk about like being a South African brand, or you know, caring about people if you're not coming to the party when they
To,
need you to come to the
and uh,
party. And
and
that
you prove
I
it.
was
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I guess InBev and your organization has been very close to social issues. I remember the Black Label gender-based violence work.
yeah.
When should brands uh, be part of the social discourse, and when should they step away? I mean, it's almost a fine line. I'm sure a lot of brand managers are like, should we comment? Shouldn't we not comment? Should we react to what is happening, or shouldn't we?
Yeah.
When is it right to join a social commentary, and when do brands need to not join a social commentary? You know, with everything that is happening constantly, and
Yeah.
I know some brands take a stance, and some brands are like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't do anything about this.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's quite it's a difficult issue to navigate, because it's a double-edged sword, right? If you come
Yeah.
out and talk about an issue today, and then there's a new issue next week, and you don't talk about that, like how do you pick and choose? You
Mm,
know, and when do you take a stand and when don't you? So, what we do is that, and there's also stands that you take as a corporate company and stands that you take as a brand. So, you
yes.
know, there's different ways, there's different ways into societal issues. But my advice would be to think about, what is your brand's purpose? You know,
Mm,
why are you here? What are you giving
mm,
consumers that they're not getting anywhere else? And if that purpose aligns to the issue, then it's easier for you to talk about that, right? And it's
mm,
easier for you to have a credible way in. But you also don't want to look like you're just jumping on what's trending today because you want to be relevant, because
yeah.
that's just not credible. And
Mm,
it'll do a lot more harm, not just to the brand, but also to the people consuming your product, than it will do good, you know. So
yeah.
you have to have a credible voice in that issue. And this brings me back to the conversation we had in the beginning around dream teams. You know, if you just hire
Yeah.
people that are like you, it's going to be really hard to sense check whether what you want to do is right or not. You know, like I had to
Yes.
check myself numerous times in the last couple of weeks and say, should we say this? Shouldn't we? Like, is it the right thing? Is it not the right thing? Because I don't have the same pressures and issues. You know, I want to understand, and I want to help as much as I can, but that is not my background. So, you know, if
Mm,
I was just surrounded by everyone like me, I would never know what to do and how to react to things. So it's really important to make sure that you have different people around you, you know, so that the work
yeah.
that comes out is a bit more rounded.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, it is interesting, and if you think of Carling as an example, they can credibly speak about the gender-based violence because of the consumer and because of their purpose, you know, making all women feel like champions. And what
Yeah.
does that really mean in a society today? But like Castle Light, as an example, can't come out and talk about that because it's just not a credible space for us, you know.
Yeah.
So if our
Yeah.
purpose is all around enjoyment and bringing some lightheartedness into your day, you know, just a little smile on your face or entertainment, then that's the stuff that we will lean into. But we're not going to lean into, you know, things that are really heavy and political because we can't actually credibly say anything there.
Mm,
But that being
mm,
said, as a brand, it's also important for you to know what's going on so that you don't support the things without knowing that you're supporting it. You know, so
yeah.
if people are taking a stand, then make sure that you take a stand the way that you can. You know, don't spend money where you shouldn't be spending money. Don't support organizations that aren't aligned to the cause. So there's lots of
Yeah.
different ways that you can fight
Yeah.
the fight. But
No, precisely. Now, coming from you, I mean, you are the authority on Castle Light. Over the years, we've seen the brand grow. We've seen the brand change position. I remember when it launched, I think it was the one to have when you're having more than one, and then it also
yeah.
evolved and everything. Take us through that brand journey on where it started, where it was positioned, and the different changes to where we are now, because I'm interested in the journey, and I think a lot of people that are listening now, I always love tracing journeys, tracing the tagline, seeing why it was right for that time, and why we needed to evolve it to where we are. So, what is the Castle Light brand journey?
Yeah, look, so Castle Light launched in South Africa in 1994. It launched
Okay.
in a brown bottle, as far as I remember, and it was very, very kind of serious. Castle Lager's little brother, you know, less calories, less carbs, less
Yeah.
alcohol. And I mean, it didn't do badly. I think it was very much ahead of its time. I don't really think that people cared about light products in the 90s.
Yeah.
So then it evolved, and we moved into a green bottle to obviously into the more premium space, which was the right thing to do. And then the positioning moved on to kind of make the right choice, the ones we have when you're having more than one. So still very much
Yep.
leaning into the product credentials of the brand.
Yes.
And it actually didn't do very well. So the brand declined. I remember when I was a rep at the time, it was my worst performing product. I had
Wow.
to write off numerous cases because
Wow.
it just didn't resonate with consumers, you know, at
Yeah.
that time. No one really cared about stuff like that. So
Yeah.
come 2009, 2010, the brand completely repositioned with the Vanilla Ice ad. I don't know if you remember that. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah. Of
repositioned,
course.
yeah, and it repositioned around enjoyment. So enjoyment became the main value of Castle Light. And everything was built around that. So if obviously the extra cold refreshment is what set us apart. So we really leaned
Yeah.
in quite hard into kind of our extra cold credentials, the thermochromatic ink, all the innovation and stuff. But
Yes.
all of our work was centered around enjoyment and lightheartedness, and that was something that wasn't in the beer category at that time.
Mm,
So the brand literally turned around. Obviously, we updated the packaging and everything, and it turned around overnight from a dying brand to growing double digits for 10 years, which is unheard of across the world for a light beer. Actually, we are the
wow.
only light beer in the world that has managed to grow like that for kind of 9, 10 consecutive years. You know, and it's done really well. The extra cold credentials work for us, but we are now in a new space where we are rethinking, you know, what is it that we want to do. And obviously there's a lot of stuff that we keep because it's a massively successful brand, but it is
Yeah.
time for us to you know, shake things up a bit. You know,
Mm,
the world's evolved, the consumers' values and needs have evolved, and we need to make sure that we keep up with that.
And now, like, I've always been interested, and I guess I've never had anyone to ask this question. The extra cold positioning. Now, I've had the privilege of traveling Africa quite extensively, and you find that in some markets, they actually don't want extra cold beer. They actually want the
Yeah.
warm beer. So how do you deal when you've
Yeah.
got a brand that is positioned on extra cold, where you go to Cameroon or Nigeria, where some people they prefer a bit of a warmer beer? I mean, does your strategy change? Do you adapt it, or do you teach the people that extra cold is an option? How do you navigate that change in society as you adapt and grow your brand?
You know, one of the biggest lessons I learned out of the Africa journey is that you can't force people to like what you tell them they must like. Okay, so and that has been the biggest challenge for us as a Pan-African brand, right? What is the fact that
Yeah.
extra cold is just not something that resonates everywhere. From how they prefer to serve their beer, all the way through to talking about cold and what that means. You know, like most of Africa don't
Yes.
even get a proper winter. Not talking about extra cold, extra cold, but it doesn't mean anything to them. So, you know, so a lot of the work we have adapted by market to make sure that we tap into things that are a little bit more relevant. We've taken Unlocks
Yeah.
as a property across into various markets that have done really, and that's done really, really well for us as a brand. But that was probably one of the big pushes for us to relook the positioning and make sure that we position on a universal insight and something that we can deliver in our liquid alone versus relying on kind of an extra cool delivery.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's brilliant. Now, that phase, I remember like scrambling and phoning. I think it was Gukum Kabinde at the time. I don't know what her role was there, and trying to find tickets. That era of the extra, was it the extra cold party? I remember you guys had Drake and all these artists. Where did that fit in the whole communication? Because I mean, I remember trying to get tickets to get to those concerts. It was just quite an iconic brand conversation and iconic. Were you part of that? And what did that mean for the brand? And why did you, go in that hard with bringing international artists? What was that about?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've done 10 years of Unlocked now. So this
Yeah.
year we are obviously Unlocked Cardi B before we went into COVID. And it is a property that does really well for us. So
Yeah.
I think what it helps, we are a South African premium brand. We're the only South African premium brand in the market currently. So that really helps us to punch above our weight, to show that we are not the small guys, and to
Yeah.
bring experiences to South African consumers and the rest of Africa that wouldn't have happened, right, if we didn't invest the way that we did.
Yeah.
We are really passionate about hip hop as a brand. The values in hip hop is entrenched in the values of Lite, so being quite progressive, expressive, doing things
Mm,
differently, always being a trend. So it's a really nice match for us. And when we
mm,
decided to get involved in that in 2010 with Drake, or 2009, I can't remember, it was 2010.
mm. Yeah.
With Drake, it was hip hop was quite small in South Africa still, and
Mm,
we
mm.
really believed in the power of hip hop. And as I said, the brand has always been built around enjoyment. So even though extra cold
Yeah.
refreshment was what set us apart, our value is enjoyment, and
Mm,
our vision and our mission is always about making the impossible possible. So when you start thinking about things like that, your purpose is about like bringing things to consumers that no one else can, that you would never have seen if without Light. So we just kind of try to one up ourselves every year. So we started with Drake. It did really well, and what it also did is it brought some emotional connection into Light that sometimes the extra cool credentials by itself lacked.
yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
gave us a little bit more depth, and diversity in what we were saying. And as hip hop grew,
Mm,
the brand grew and we grew next to each other. So it's been a really
yeah.
fruitful journey.
That's brilliant. And I mean, what is the future of Unlocked? What is this new world? So, I mean, a lot of people talk about this new normal. What does that mean to you? When you hear the word new normal, what is that world?